Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aliyah. We're digging into some of the scariest parts of your life. Let's discuss going to college. I know college is such a big transition point and growing point for a lot of people, but if you don't have a baseline of things you should and shouldn't be doing, it's very hard to maneuver if you've never been in a situation or environment like that before. I'm here to tell you all the college advice that I wish I knew before I graduated college at 20 years old. So before we get into it, I want to give you some aliyah lore. When I was in high school, I actually was in a dual enrollment program. If you don't know, I have some vlogs from when I was in high school, so you can kind of see that transition into that type of lifestyle. But basically that meant I was taking college classes as a high school junior and senior for completely free at my local community college here in Charlotte. And this lets me being able to get my associates and my high school diploma at the exact same time. I usually don't say anything about my associates because my community college that I got it from tried to make me pay for it, and I graduated in 2020. But my senior year, I was applying to colleges. I thought I was gonna apply to way more, but I only applied to 3 universities. I applied to North Carolina A&T, UNC Greensboro, and UNC Charlotte, and I got accepted into all 3 of the schools. Things were really different when I applied to schools for college, but I picked things based on how much the application was and how much their application was requiring of me, because one thing about me, baby, I'm not writing an essay for nobody if I don't have to. So all my applications that I submitted didn't require essay. They only really required test scores and transcripts. So I went into college. I started my freshman year at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and I got all my prerequisites done. Well, majority of my prerequisites done in high school because of my dual enrollments. That means I got to go right into majority of my major classes at 18, which is like very rare and a very special occasion. I went into UNCG as a comm major because I wanted to do a lot of things in social media and PR and everything like that, and that just made the most sense to me because comm is really broad, and a lot of people say comm is too broad, but if you know exactly what you want to do with your comm major, it's not as broad as you think. You actually kind of know exactly what you need to do to get where you want to go. And the reason I picked UNCG was because I wanted to get out of my home city, which is Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I'm based now, but also being still close to my family, that I still had access to them. And Greensboro is not even a full 2-hour drive from Charlotte, so it just made sense. And after a semester at UNCG, it just wasn't really the school for me, so I transferred to UNC Charlotte. So I moved home after a semester, and I went in as a pre-comm major, but I ended up switching my major because the comm department at UNCC at the time was just not the greatest. So I switched my major to a writing, rhetoric, and digital studies major, which is words for short, which I'll probably keep referencing in this video. It actually allowed me to shave off an entire year of my education because of my prereqs, and a lot of things that I did with my associates in the arts that I got in high school applied to my bachelor's in words. So it really shaved off a lot of time. I didn't know this was gonna happen when I switched to that major, but I'm very happy I did because, girl, I graduated a whole year early. I was literally the youngest person in my graduating class at 20 years old with the bachelor's, which is super crazy, but I'm super grateful that I had the opportunity to graduate early because I saved a lot of money in the long run, and a lot of that is because I did dual enrollment. If I didn't do dual enrollment, I probably would have just graduated. I would have graduated just this year, and a year doesn't really make a big difference, but when it comes to paying for education, it absolutely does when it comes to your pockets. When it comes to going to college, picking your major is one of the biggest things involving your college experience because, babe, this is literally what you're gonna be focusing on for the next 4 to 6 years, depending on what track you want to take and how long you want to take. But when it comes to picking a major, you need to pick something that you enjoy doing. I was actually talking to my sister about this because she's about to go into her freshman year of college. I think a lot of people pick majors based on the outcomes that they are going to have with said majors, such as financial stuff, job opportunities, but it doesn't make sense to put yourself through years of education if you don't even really like your major. I feel like there are 3 main things that you need to think about when it comes to picking a major. I think you need to think about if you're actually going to enjoy it. If you go a year into your major studies and you're like, I actually hate this, you need to switch. I also think you need to think about, are you okay with the possible outcomes of not doing so well in the job market after the fact? And I feel like in this economy, you also need to think about the financial situation you're putting yourself in to pay for that degree, as well as what your financial situation is going to be like with that degree. For example, when it came to my major, I didn't think about jobs after the fact, which is my type of fault because, girl, I was just really doing what I liked. But if I could go back, I would pick a different major. Kind of was along the lines of the same thing that I did already, but also had a bigger name for itself, and it's more traditional because my major is kind of new at my school or at my alma mater. And then I would have picked something else that I know could at least have a little bit higher of a stance of, you know, getting a job and like jobs that pay the type of money that I want to make. You have to think about if you're going to enjoy it, if you are comfortable with the idea of the fact that you're going to be living off a salary, like the average salary of that job. And then you also have to think about the experience you can get through that major in the city that your college is at, because a lot of people expect experience when it comes to entry-level jobs, and when they say that, it's because they want you to have the internships. They want you to have the many part-time jobs on campus. And if you can't find many experiences to fund essentially future entry-level job, which is a crazy statement, but if you can't see yourself getting a lot of experience for something that you know you're gonna have to require experience for when it comes to getting an entry-level job, babe, I think we just need to think a little bit further into the future. You should never settle for a major, but there's definitely a focus for everything and there's a job for everyone. So I'd really analyze your interests, the lifestyle you want to live, where you want to live, and if you're okay like with the average salary for that, and then pick a major based off that. So yeah, I definitely recommend you picking a potential career path first, maybe picking like 3 to 5, and then pick your major after that to kind of figure out what you should do to study in college to get ready for that. And I think you just have to be super honest to yourself and about the direction of life that you want to go, because me personally, I have went through so many interest changes even since like high school. I remember I wanted to be a teacher when I was little. I wanted to be a biochemist. In high school I wanted to be a psychologist and therapist in high school as well, but I was realistic with myself and I did not want to go through those levels. Well, I didn't want to go through as well as pay for those levels of education just to pursue something, because I know how I am. I was being brutally honest. I was like, okay, you want to do all these big things but you can barely realistically get through 3 years of college, and I also didn't want to pay for it. So it's like, you gotta be honest with yourself and truly just think about your work ethic, if you're willing to work for it and if you're willing to pay for that level of education. Everybody's different. Being honest and picking stuff based on what you like as well as if it's gonna match your lifestyle, match your freak, if you will, is the best way to pick a major. And I know it's so hard to pick a job that you want to go into as a 18-year-old, because I'm assuming you're going to college 18 to 22. I'm talking everybody going to college, just not just for freshmen. Honestly, when it comes to switching majors, I'm gonna talk about this really quickly. You have to be able to look at your university and be like, are you going to give me the top level of education that I need? If not, get out my face. Like, honestly, it was so hard for me to switch majors because I was so excited to go into comm and do everything communications. I didn't think the communications major at my school was updated enough for it to appeal to and make sense to me for what I wanted to do, because it's so social media marketing driven what I wanted to do, and the stuff they have is really outdated. Like, why are we talking about Facebook? Mind you, this was like 2021, so it might be different now, but me switching did a lot more good than it did bad. It saved me money. I got to graduate a year early. You got to be able to look at your school's quality of education, and if you're willing to struggle a little bit to do it. I always tell people, please don't purposefully sabotage yourself if you don't have to. So for example, if your school doesn't have a good science like department, but you want to be a nurse or a biochemist or a chemist, are you willing to put up with the bad department, bad teachers and stuff like that to do what you want to do? And if you are, I love that for you. If you're not, nobody's gonna blame you for it, because you're, at the end of the day, somebody's paying for that education, so you should be able to make your education as smooth as possible if you are able. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard for your education just because there's a few hurdles, but you have to think this is gonna be your setting and your lifestyle for the next couple years, and if you truly love what you do, it'll probably feel like nothing. But if you're iffy about your major, it's gonna feel like something. As somebody who went to a college for a semester, made my little group of friends there, and then moved girl, I've been through it all. I feel like everybody says join clubs and things like that, but as somebody who was on e-board for a club at their university, baby, them clubs, they're very cliquey. It was a very rare occurrence that somebody would come to my student orgs meetings by themselves, and if they did, my e-board and I always made sure to talk to them, introduce them to people, do engaging things to make sure they don't feel by themselves. But they're very clicky. 9 times out of 10, if you are going to a organization meeting, people are going with their friend. I don't want to say and continue the narrative that you just join clubs and stuff like that in order to make friends. This is gonna be kind of like weird, but I think what you should do is, if you have at least one friend, because this is how I did it. I had one good friend in college when I went to UNCC. He brought me around to a lot of his organization events and stuff like that, and that's how I started meeting people. He would go up and talk to people, and of course I didn't want to like not say anything. I'm a chatterbox. I love to talk. That's why I do what I do now. He would bring me to these events and be like, oh, hi, here's the updates list. Oh, and here's my friend Aliyah. Like, have you met her before? And you know, a lot of people are really nice in college for the most part, and they'll simply just like either compliment your outfit or say like, oh, you're really pretty. Then you start talking. The next thing you know, you're walking down the sidewalk and you're saying, hey, how are you? Like, do you want to do this later? Like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Like, where are you headed? I want to go with you. You'd be surprised at how easy it is to meet people through someone else. And I want to say this right now, not all your college friendships are going to be super deep, super close, best of friends type of vibe, because that's just not realistic. But I will say, if you do want to get closer with people in college, it's gonna be up to you to consciously take the next step to get closer to somebody if you want to. My favorite thing was to run into people in the library, hey, What are you doing at this time? Are you free like Tuesday? We can go to the library, do some homework. Vibes. You want to go to the coffee shop on campus, we get something to drink. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't do parties or outings or going to the club and going to the hookah lounge. Baby, them study dates was my best friend. Let's discuss studying and note-taking, because as somebody who is notoriously known for her note-taking and organization, this is not a choice, it's a lifestyle. You have to study and note-take based on your major in class. All study methods and note-taking methods are not going to work universally for the same class. I was a writing major. I was not doing much studying because I am writing. The most studying I ever had to do was in like an intermediate Spanish class, and in situations like that, quiz it was my bestie, repetition was my bestie, working with student peers was also my bestie. Repetition works a lot of the time for a lot of the subjects, but you also have to realize your learning style also impacts that. So I don't know if you ever heard of this, but there's a bunch of different learning styles, and based on your learning style, that's how you should study and of course like learn. I'm gonna link a quiz down below for you to take. Once you figure out your learning style, your studying and learning like experience is gonna get so much better, I promise. So when it comes to supplies and materials, I feel like a lot of people also just ignore the fact that everybody's experience is different. It's always, should I get an iPad or a MacBook for school? And it's like, girl, you're an architecture major. The hell you doing with a MacBook? Based on your major and your area of study, that should impact the type of technology and supplies that you get. So for example, as somebody who is a writing major, I can get away with anything because Google Docs and Canva was my best friend. Presentations, writing essays, and I also use my iPad. I use GoodNotes and Notability, which are note-taking apps that are actually pretty popular. If you don't know what they are, that's kind of a shock because they're kind of like huge. I would take notes for my language arts and language classes such as Spanish and very early like grammar, and then I would use my iPad to also mark up like readings that we had to do. But for writing essays and taking notes, baby, I wasn't in Google Docs, so my Mac and iPad worked fine. But one of my friends was going into architecture and he had a Mac, and he literally had to get special software in order to use the software that they use in his architecture classes. It really just depends on your major and the type of work you're going to be doing, and that sucks. But I'm being completely honest here. Don't listen to people on TikTok. Get what works for your major, not what's aesthetic and cute. You need to get what you're gonna get your money's worth out of, okay? It's hard to pick things because there's so many options, but going to your major and figuring out what you're going to be doing in your major should help you pick what you want. And I know it hurts a lot of Apple girls' hearts because as somebody with the ecosystem, the Macs can't do everything. They can't. They're not built for everything, and that's just completely honest. And usually on a day-to-day basis, when I personally went to school, I would usually bring my laptop, my iPad, and a few spare pencils. You'd be surprised at how many professors actually still hand out like attendance sheets and you have to sign it. And I didn't want to be that person who was asking for a pen or pencil every single like class, because it's like, girl, you know that attendance sheet is coming around. Why the hell you ain't got no pencil? Like, come on. Hey, a few of my go-to apps, once again, Notability, GoodNotes, Google Docs was my bestie. And then I also really love my free Word or Microsoft account. Your student email, you can actually get free Excel and Word and PowerPoint, all that, like for free. And I still have it to this day. They haven't gotten rid of my student email. So let's discuss work-life balance. I was a full-time student the entire time I was in college, as well as I did this full-time, so I technically had a full-time job as well. So this is gonna be a very interesting part of the video because I feel like although I didn't have a traditional job where I clocked in, baby, I was clocked in elsewhere. Full-time student with full-time job, full-time interest, full-time social life, full-time family life, full-time relationships. Baby, I was working overtime. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about procrastination, because I know a lot of y'all are sitting up here watching this video knowing good and well school about to start and your due dates are in Canvas and they not your calendar for what? Oh, okay. Yeah. Not procrastinating is so easy in theory, but when it comes to execution, baby, you're gonna suffer. As somebody who literally their entire educational career, I literally used to wait till the last minute to do work. And as somebody who was like in honors and like the really smart parts of their schooling, I used to wait and basically get rewarded because no matter what I did, even if I half-assed it, I was rewarded with good grades. And unlearning this started taking place after I left school. Getting good grades on stuff like projects, papers, just constantly being reinforced never gave us a reason, because I'm not the only one to do this, but it never gave us a reason to try to break this habit because we were constantly rewarded with good grades. Why would we break a habit that's clearly working for us, you know? And I think the best thing that you could do is create a system that holds you accountable for doing things earlier than what they need. So for example, thing I started doing post-grad and something I wish I did in college is forcing myself to start stuff early in order to enjoy my time later, because I'm a very, I want to vibe right now type of girl. Then I'm like ripping my hair out and losing hair due to stress because I'm starting something 3 days before it's due when I could have just enjoyed my weekend leading up to that if I did it early. So for example, now when it comes to projects and stuff like that, that, I will literally start them like a few days in advance. And if I know I have something due on a Friday, I want to be done with it by Wednesday or Thursday, the latest, ready to turn in Friday morning, so I can enjoy my Friday and not be scrambling last minute to reach a deadline. And the same thing applies to being a student. And I think another example of this is if you know you have an assignment that you could do right now that's due a little bit later, but you know your assignment volume is going to be picking up in a few days or weeks, you might as well get stuff over with so you're not as scrambled and swamped with stuff. Because baby, we all do it. When midterms and finals come up, I literally have never done as much work within the span of a week and a half than I did with midterms and finals. Even if you go back to watching my college vlogs, I have all of them still up, as well as my like vlogmases, where you can watch my vlogmas years, whatever. You can see me doing finals in a lot of those videos, and I'm literally doing work every day for like 2 weeks straight, and that's me planning ahead. Finals and midterms are hard, so especially during those times, if you know you have little tiny assignments that are due later around the same time as midterms, but you know midterms and finals are so hard, you might as well do them early. Like don't even do the stress to yourself. Like it's not even worth it. Like just do it early. Another big thing that I personally loved was having dedicated study days or assignment days. I used to do a lot of my assignments on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then as well as Thursdays, and that seems like a big chunk of the week, but when you really take into account how much time you're spending in the classroom, it's really not that much. And honestly, I feel like having dedicated assignment days and days that you can not worry about school is honestly the best thing. I used to give myself like 3 to 4 days of the week because I got so much work done at a time where I just got to chill. If I had extra time, I would definitely take it. As somebody who literally used to crank out 8 to 20 page papers every single week, please take my word for time management, because I know what I'm talking about. I had a writing research class, and it was a 4,000 level class. So it was a senior level class, and I was literally stressing like my life depended on it. Basically in this class, we looked at different research methods to research writing and what that says about whatever we wanted to say. And that sounds really broad because it was. This was literally the hardest class I've ever taken in my life. We had to basically produce 8 to 20 page papers every single week using a different research method to research writing and come to conclusions based on these pieces of writing every single week and a half. Awful professor, hated him. Oh my gosh, it was beef. It was beef. Self-discipline is gonna be your best friend when it comes to work-life balance. I love the girlies who do homework Monday to Thursday, so they have nothing to do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so they have time to go party, do their errands, meal prep. And a lot of people do that method because it's the best way to have a good work-life balance as a full-time student. And I'm gonna say this right now, I'm just gonna be honest. If you're expecting to have a good school life, social life, romantic life, family life, just be an academic weapon, just expect to not get the best sleep all the time. Just expect it, please, because I'm being for real. Like, just expect to lose some sleep because it's hard to balance everything as an adult with no technical obligations, timely obligations, and due dates. And if I'm struggling, imagine my college self. College is a big culture shock. If you have never experienced college, imagine going from being micromanaged from ages 14 to 17, 18 years old in high school, and then you're basically like, go! And you're in charge of everything. You literally have to make your own schedule based on your behaviors, your timeliness, and then you also have to be on top of all your due dates and your assignments. And you have to be responsible of what you eat on top of it. So much. It's so much. And honestly, I 100% am so grateful for my dual enrollment experience because I was able to get a sort of middle ground between being a college student and still being young. So I was eased into it a lot because when I was in high school in dual enrollment, I was still going to my high school classes 1 or 2 times a day, but also making a schedule around that based on what I needed to complete in order to get my degree. And I was still figuring out how to deal with pockets of time and when I should do stuff. And it was and I was still at home because I was in high school. It was a nice medium. Sometimes I do wish I still finished with traditional high school, but it helped me literally so much. And I think about it all the time because college is usually the first time a lot of people are not dependent on their families. They're 100% dependent on themselves. And that's why a lot of people struggle their freshman year because it's just so many changes. Without me being dual enrollment, I don't know how I would have done in college. Like, I really don't. It helped me so much. I will say the first week or two when it comes to college is literally so overwhelming because they're like culture fairs, club fairs, organization fairs. Oh my gosh, do you want to cross? Oh my gosh, do you want to rush this sorority and fraternity? And it's like, can we please just like be calm? And I'm here to tell you it's okay to feel overwhelmed with all the new information that is thrown at you the first 1, 2, or even 3 weeks of college. Honestly, I usually tell people your first semester of your year, even if you're not a freshman, first semester of your year is usually getting acclimated into being in school again after not being in school, assuming you didn't take any summer classes, like actually physically being in school again. Even though you do the same things every single year, so I had to get readjusted to new schedules, new people, meet new people, new professors. It's okay if you need to take some time to get acclimated and feel okay in order to be the best student you can be. Taking your time, focus on setting a routine and getting settled within yourself and feeling at peace with your routines, how you're gonna do your classes, what your week is typically gonna look like, and then you can expand upon your world. If you try to settle into a routine and then do all this stuff at the same time, you're gonna feel scatterbrained and overwhelmed, and that is probably the worst thing you could do when it comes to going into college, because girl, you're gonna struggle. It's a lot to juggle at once, so taking it in small steps, literally taking it a day at a time is gonna be your best friend. Like, truly. Literally, when my fall semesters would start, I'm like, okay, I'm excited for this. But every single time I'd go into my fall semester, I would have all my due dates in my Google Calendar already. Based on the first like week or 2 weeks, I get a vibe from my professor to see like what I should expect from them and what they expect from me. And based off that, that's how I build my routine. Then after I got that settled, I would go about and expand a little bit more and be like, okay, so when can I go to like my favorite offices or favorite parts of campus to meet people versus my favorite parts of campus to study versus am I gonna do stuff at home or am I gonna stay here a lot depending on the week and depending on how I feel. So it really just helps when you focus on you first and then expand later. It makes the most sense. As somebody who's been graduated for a year now, I do have some regrets about going to college. One thing that I really do regret is not having a more positive attitude about going. As somebody who was popping off in the social media realm in 2019, I didn't want to go to college at all, and that really tainted my college experience from start to finish. And this is just me being fully transparent, because I was like, I really don't want to be here. I'm being here because I made a commitment to myself and I want to prove to myself that I can do it. Telling myself that I can do something, but then having the worst attitude about it and being miserable the whole time was just not, it's just like, at that point, don't even do it, you know? So I wish I definitely had a better attitude in the beginning, because it took me a really long time to shift my attitude after the fact. My attitude about college was actually so bad. My first semester at UNCC, so it was the spring of 2021 after I transferred from UNCG, I just stopped attending my online classes and classes period a little bit before midterms. Literally got on academic probation my second semester of college. And I don't really say anything about that. My attitude about it was just so bad, because it's like, I hate my professors, I don't like this workload, nobody knows how to do their job. And it's like, girl, you're literally putting yourself through hell for no reason. Like, at the end of the day, you're an adult now. You have to take all the responsibility for your education. And after that semester, for the rest of my college career, so for fall 21, spring 22, fall 22, spring 23, I think I only got 3 C's, maybe 4 C's that entire rest of my college career, because I was like, it's a privilege to be here and you shouldn't throw that away just because you're not the biggest fan of your professor, or like just because you don't want to get up early. And it's just like, as soon as I realized that I could potentially lose what I had, that made me appreciate it more and realize I can handle this even though it's not easy. And as somebody who is, I don't want to say everything comes easy to me, but as somebody who is pretty used to things not being a problem with me, and when things don't come easy to me, I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? I get flustered. But after literally being put on academic probation, I was like, you can do so much better than this. Like, there's no reason that you are in this situation and predicament. And after I changed that and realized it's a privilege for me to be where I am, to even have the money and opportunity to go to a 4-year university, a lot of people don't get that chance. I'm not saying just because you're in college you shouldn't be able to complain or feel like it's really hard, because it is really hard to be a student. And it's like, you wanted to be here. If you really didn't want to go, you don't have to go. I mentioned it earlier, but something else I regret, I kind of wish that I took more time to see the options in regards to majors that my school had to offer. I feel like I kind of just saw digital studies and was like, oh, I want to do that. But as I got older and I developed more of my interest and taste and hobbies, I wish I minored in something as well. And sometimes I even wish I majored in something else. Like, I think if I actually took the time and instead of being in a rush to get out and be focused on getting out, I would have minored in something. If I minored in something, it probably still would have taken me like an extra semester or even extra year, but at least I would have gotten more background in something I would have been interested in as well as my major. So if I could go back, I would minor in something and maybe even major in something else, but I'm not sure. UNC Charlotte had a bunch of majors and I barely looked at them because I was just like, just put me somewhere with social media and I'm gonna be happy. Which is terrible, but like, I literally could have minored in like Africana studies, or I could have minored in film, I could have minored in photography or media studies, but I was just like, I don't want to tack on another year. Now you're sitting here wishing you did it. I really hope I was able to help somebody, even if it's one person, because college is hard and it's definitely a learning curve and adjustment type of thing. So if I was able to help even one person, I'm so happy, because this shit is hard. And yeah, so if you have any questions for me, let me know down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. And with that being said, I hope you have an amazing morning, evening, night, wherever you're in the world, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Have a good year.